Hello, Oracles. Today we are going to be discussing the near, medium, and long-term outlook for Tesla stock. None of this is financial advice. I have no idea what the actual stock price movement is going to be doing over the near, medium, and long term, but we can discuss some of the fundamentals. We can discuss some of the things that are going on when it comes to maybe sentiment swings in the stock. We can also discuss what's going on in the macro environment to kind of get an idea of what we might end up seeing when it comes to the movement of the stock, which goes along with the entire stock market itself. So when I'm talking about near term, I'm talking the next 6 to 12 months. Medium term is going to be about 12 to 24 months, and the long term is going to be 24 months and beyond, so 2 years plus. So that's what I'm going to be discussing when it comes to the time frames that we're discussing here. Now, before we get into it, if you guys like this content, please hit that like button down below, and we'll get right into it. All right, so to start with the near term, we could see some continued volatility based upon where we're at right now. So again, we've kind of seen sort of sideways trading going on with the stock. We did pull down to fill that 146 gap that I had predicted last year. We then bounced up to almost $200 and have kind of leveled off around the $175 mark and been trading sideways since. Now, next week, we have the FOMC meeting. I don't think this is going to play a major role. We are not expecting the Fed to be cutting rates. We did see that the Bank of Europe and the Canadian Bank both cut rates, but here in the US, we have no signs that are indicating that that is going to happen. I think it's going to be status quo as usual. So unless Jerome Powell comes out and gives us some shocking news, which I don't think he's going to do, I don't think that is going to play a factor in the stock price itself. Now, we do have the annual shareholder meeting going on the day after. So the FOMC is the 11th and 12th. And then on the 13th, we are going to have the annual shareholder meeting. That, I think, is going to play a much more significant role in the potential movement of Tesla stock. So the big piece going on that everyone is talking about is Elon's compensation package. Now, I don't know if you guys have voted. You can let us know in the comments below whether you have voted for or against it. My personal feeling is he should get it. And I really don't know if anybody who has held the stock since after 2018 should even be allowed to vote on it. I think most of us as shareholders are going to be voting for it anyway, despite the fact that anybody who bought the stock basically 2020, second half of 2020 and beyond is either, even or down on the stock price. I think we're all going to vote for it. I voted for it. But truly, what he has done since 2018 when they came out with that compensation package, which everybody basically thought was going to be impossible to achieve, and he achieved it, and in achieving it, garnered very generous wealth to all shareholders at that time. I think he is very much due that compensation. So again, you guys can let us know in the comments below what you think on that, but I think he deserves it. So I think it's going to play some role in it. I don't know what else they're going to be discussing at the shareholder meeting. So other than the compensation package, there still could be some things that they discuss that are going to, maybe move the stock price one way or another. We'll see how the stock price moves next week. Do we run up into the shareholder meeting and then maybe get a sell the news situation? Do we trade sideways and maybe pop after it? Again, I don't know how it's going to be moving in that time frame. I'm not going to make any guesses, but that's what could play out next week. The next big thing that we have going on after that is going to be coming up on August 8th when we get the unveiling of the robotaxi. Now, my personal feelings on this, I think that FSD has been making great strides. I think we are just on the path. We are going to get to fully autonomous vehicles. That's not a question in my mind. Whatever they unveil at, this robotaxi unveiling event, I think is going to be something like a two-seater. They're going to basically unveil the compact car, and it's going to be the steering wheel-less version of it. So the one without steering wheel, without pedals, all of that. But I think the compact car is going to be the exact same thing, just with a steering wheel. And I think that's what we're going to get. And I think the bigger impact from it might actually be the fact that that compact car, and if they can say that, hey, we're going to make this and be able to produce it for, $16,000, $17,000, and then sell it for $25,000 to the general public when it comes to the compact car version, that could be a massive game changer. Now, my personal feeling on this is they are not going to announce that. The reason they're not going to announce that, because that would end up cannibalizing the Model 3 sales. They don't want to do that. They're not going to be producing this compact car until 2025 at some point. So sounds like may end up being the first half, but again, we won't get to volume production until probably later in 2025. That being the case, they don't want to squash all of their sales on any Model 3s until then. So that's why they're going to be unveiling it as the robotaxi and discuss that. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to, autonomous vehicles, some states have it regulated. Nationally, we don't. May end up coming sooner than later, but again, it's the US government. We kick the can down the road a lot, so that could take longer than we think. However, China may end up regulating it a lot sooner. Now, I've had discussions with many of you on here that China wouldn't do that. That's not their thing. They want to make sure that they have full control of everything. And maybe they do have full control of it. Having fully autonomous vehicles on the road, maybe they work it out so they can have control of all these vehicles. Some people are out there fearing that having fully autonomous vehicles on the road means that the government at any point can just shut all of the cars off. It's not how it works, but maybe in China they do have it go that way, which is kind of scary to think about. But again, all of these different things playing out, I don't know how that's going to go. These are just some scenarios that I have discussed with other people. But China may end up regulating it as a nation before we do in the US. With that coming out, that may come out and factor into a lot of people's valuation models way ahead of time. But again, without any of that solid information coming out for regulations and what, kind of revenue generation it's going to bring in, when it comes to the unveiling of the robotaxi, it's going to be exciting, but we may get a pop similar to what we saw at the last earnings call when we saw it run up to $200 and then fade back. Might get a very similar situation going on at that time. Now, the other thing that's going on at that time as well is we are going to be getting the adjusted numbers from last year's employment. So we are going to be getting that, and it sounds like we have actually overstated some of the employment numbers from last year. There's rumors out there that they may have overstated it and inflated those numbers by as much as 1 million jobs. If that is the case, that could lead to some very strong uncertainty in the macro environment saying, hey, this jobs market was not as strong as we thought it was. There's actually a lot more unemployment than we thought. Why is the government fudging these numbers? Why are we not getting a true statement? Could be an ugly mess going on in the macro environment. So we might get a nice little pop from the robo-taxi unveiling, but then we might get a massive pullback market-wide when it comes to everything going on with the jobs, thinking maybe we have been in a recession and didn't know it. So again, that's a lot of uncertainty. Then right afterwards, we're already getting into the election cycle. Every single year that we have an election, we typically get a pullback in the market at that time because we don't know who is going to be the next president. That in turn is going to make the market be uncertain. Many times we see the money get pulled out and just kind of on the sidelines waiting to see what's going to happen because typically when you get one party or the other, it favors one sector or another. So people just kind of put the money on the sidelines once they see a more certain path as to what's going on with the government when it comes to regulations and all sorts of laws and stuff. Then they put the money back in. So we typically get that. Now, historically, when it comes to election years overall, we see green on those election years. So we've seen a massive run up in the first half of this year. So even if we get a pullback, we may still be green on the year, but it could be uncertain. Then post-election, we may see a bit of a run as well. So again, these are kind of the ups and downs. So we could be seeing some maybe uncertainty next week. And then during the robotaxi in August, we could see a bit of a pop and then a massive pullback afterwards for a few months. That could give us some great buying opportunities. Post-election, really depending on who we're going to be getting in as president, that could make a difference as well. Seeing as we do have all these mandates out there for no gas vehicles to be produced after 2035, that mandate can certainly be either kicked down the road or removed entirely if we get a different party in power when it comes to election time. So that also could be on some uncertainty. Now, in a minute, we will discuss the long-term ramifications of that if it plays out. But near term, that just uncertainty could affect the stock price one way or another. So I'm not going to give any price targets for the stock for the end of the year. Way too uncertain with everything that we've got going on. But I think near term, again, 6 to 12 months, we can see some up and downs. We can see basically what we have been seeing. There could be some very good buying opportunities. Swing traders or anybody who plays options could be making some very good money over the next 6 to 12 months. All right, so next up is going to be the medium term. Medium term is going to be 12 to 24 months. So in that 12 to 24 months, we are going to be seeing, again, the compact car and robotaxi go into production. We're going to be seeing the Cybertruck hitting probably volume production in next year at some point. We are going to be hearing more about the regulations around robo-taxis and having fully autonomous vehicles on the road between both here and the US. We'll have more news about Mexico coming online. Again, they're going to start production of this vehicle in Austin, but then it's inevitably going to be coming out in Mexico. So lots of fundamental positives going over the next 12 to 24 months for the company. But if we end up getting ourselves into a recession in the next 12 to 24 months, it could keep the stock price suppressed. That could be the bigger issue. Again, the macro environment, and we've seen it before, no matter how awesome Tesla is doing fundamentally, the macro environment is always going to be stronger. And I do think that we are going to be getting a recession in the next 12 to 24 months if we haven't been in one already. Some people say we've been in a rolling recession, depending on what areas of the economy you're looking at. But either way, we are already starting to see prices coming down at a lot of different companies out there. So that could bring prices down. That in turn could mean that we might not see any more upward pressure when it comes to wages going up. Because if, the prices of all the goods are coming down, less people are going to be like, hey, I need more money. They'll be more comfortable with where they're at and will kind of level off a little bit more as an economy. But that'll be during that recession time where now people won't have money at all because they won't have jobs. So that's a bigger issue. And timing wise could be awesome for the compact car because people who don't have jobs, but maybe want to get into, a lower priced EV, Tesla is now going to be able to provide that. So could be very good, but I don't know if it's going to affect the stock price extremely positively if we're in a recession. The whole market's going to be down, but at that time could be an amazing buying opportunity. Now, I think it's going to be a great positive buying opportunity because now we're going to get into the long term. Again, next 12 to 24 months could be still some more of the sideways trading, but we're going to be having, again, the Cybertruck getting to full RAM, compact car coming out, robotaxi coming out, autonomy getting regulated potentially in the next 12 to 24 months. A lot of these different things happening going into 24 months, 2 years, 3 years, and beyond. Now, all of a sudden, we start coming out of this recession. People start doing better. Now, Tesla and their pricing power, they can start pushing up margins even higher. So again, you have that compact car coming out. Margins may not be as high. We may still struggling with margins a little bit, but when we come out of it, they're going to get pricing power back. Cost of things are going to come down. Economies of scale are going to be taking effect in the Cybertruck, robotaxi, compact car. They're really going to be driving this strongly coming out of that potential recession that I think we're going to be getting into. So going beyond, so when we're looking at 2027 and beyond, then I think we're really going to see that next huge run when it comes to the stock price. We've seen it historically go with Tesla, and Nvidia does the same thing. You can go 3, 4, 5 years of sideways or slightly downward trading, then you get that massive run. Kind of just goes in those cycles. I think we're just in one of those down cycles right now for Tesla. As we come out of it, energy at that time is also going to be taking off. A lot of negative feedback we get about EVs is the fact that the grid and the structure that we have here when it comes to the US really can't handle it. And Tesla is going to be able to come out and provide a lot of that structure behind it to be able to help the grid support it even more. That's also going to generate a lot of revenue for Tesla. Tesla does still have up all their charging stations. They're still coming out with these despite the fact that they got rid of the team that they had doing the charging stations. I just heard from one of our contractors at work that they're putting one up in the town right next to where I work. So my company is supplying materials to put up these charging stations. So this is awesome to see that they're still doing this. That is all going to come to fruition. So we're kind of just in this downward lull of the transition between, ICE vehicles going over to EVs. Now, going back to what I was talking about when it comes to the mandates of 2035, I truly don't think are going to matter. I'm actually against the mandates. I don't think we should be out there telling people what they should or shouldn't be doing. Naturally, when it comes down to it, the price and cost of a EV is going to be significantly less than an ICE vehicle anyway. Maintenance is less. You're not going to pay as much for charging as you would for gas. The vehicle is going to be running a lot better. It's just a better overall vehicle. It's like, again, going from horses to cars. It was no brainer to switch over because it was just a much better technology. That's what we're going into. So as far as I'm concerned, the majority of the population is going to be choosing an EV anyway because it's going to be more cost effective and you're going to get a better vehicle. It's like, why would you have a flip phone when you can have a smartphone for the same price? Makes no sense. So we're going to end up having that going on. So if people still want to buy ICE vehicles, let them. when it comes to manufacturers, they're not going to be naturally manufacturing an ICE vehicle anyway because the demand is going to be so low for them. So just letting natural laws of supply and demand are going to mean that people are going to be choosing EVs, and we would naturally make that transition anyway. So again, when it comes to the mandates in the near term, that may cause some uncertainty in stock price movement. But when you go long term, it's truly not going to matter. I think naturally EVs are going to be taking over and will be going long term. Now, of course, long term, we're also going to have robo taxis on the road with all of that revenue. So in the next 12 to 24 months, we may end up getting a better idea of what kind of revenue that could be generating. But definitely 24 months plus, we will absolutely have that information and know how that's all going to be playing out. So that's kind of my thesis for the near, medium, and long term for Tesla. There's obviously a lot more factors that are involved here. But when it comes to the macro environment, I think Tesla is going to kind of follow along with that. But it's going to, again, near term, we're going to have some uncertainty in the macro environment. Tesla may stay suppressed. 12 to 24 months, if we hit that recession, Tesla gets pulled down even further. Maybe we do fill that gap at 122 and 114 if we end up getting a big recession. Again, not Tesla related, macro related. But then long term, I think we come out extremely strong. Obviously, I think long term, we're going to get back to all-time highs. That's not even a question in my mind. When we get there, I think it's all going to determine how long the recession is. Historically, the longer we have seen the yield curve inverted and the longer we have been in a high interest rate environment, the longer we've seen the recession come afterwards. Some people still think we're going to get a soft landing. I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're lagging with information. We don't track data the right way when it comes to the Fed. They do a much better job in Europe, and Europe is saying right now that we've basically been at 2% inflation for the last 9 months. If that's the case, then we may be overdoing it with the interest rates, and because we're overdoing it, the interest rates could end up causing that recession. Again, I can't predict the future. This is just kind of what I'm seeing playing out right now. And I think unemployment is actually going to be a lot higher than we think it is and will spiral a lot faster. And the Fed's going to have to cut rates quickly to compensate for that. And at that point, we will already be in the recession. And the Fed is now just trying to slam on the brakes to get us back out of it. So at that point, yes, rates coming down is a good thing, especially for Tesla, but it's because there's a bad thing going on in the economy, and that's going to bring the stock price down. But again, when we come out of it, the entire economy will come out stronger, and Tesla will be stronger on top of it. I've said it many times before that Tesla has been positioning themselves to come out the strongest when you come out of a hard economic time. That's usually what happens with the best companies. We'll see it from Google, Amazon, Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft. All of them will do the same thing. They're all going to come out much stronger on the other side of a downward economic turn. Weaker companies will either, get even weaker, get bought out, or they're going to end up going bankrupt and, go away entirely. So then the bigger dogs will come in there and scoop up all of that and then grow themselves even bigger in that void. That I think is going to end up happening with Tesla. There may be some EV companies or maybe some ICE companies that end up going to the wayside during this time. We can see a lot of juggling going on in the next 24 to 36 months. And then coming out of that, we'll see who the strongest players are. I think Tesla will be one of them. So you guys can let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about all of that? What are your thoughts for the near, medium, and long term for Tesla stock itself? What did I miss that's in there? I know there's a lot of things that I did not discuss, so you guys can share in the comments below and we could chat about them there. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate all of your support. Have a great one.